at where we are. Just to give our new SG the update. SG, these are members of the media that we've been interacting with since the start of the national conference. We've been giving them updates on a day-to-day basis on the undertakings here at the conference. And over to you, SG.
Thank you very much, Comrade Pule, and members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Just to inform you that the officials of the ANC, tomorrow after the closing address of the President, will have a media briefing with the press. I know some of you have been asking individual engagements with us and different officials for profiling and all of that. We want to promise you that that will happen after the closure of the conference, as we are engaged in different activities. So you'll have the opportunity to engage with different members of the officials for profiling and engagement. Because after tomorrow, the resolutions of conference would have been adopted. So we want to avoid personal and individual interpretation of where we are going. So you'll be allowed, because those members of the officials will now have been empowered by the conference in terms of the resolutions of conference. So I just want to highlight that, and Comrade Pule and the media team will be coordinating that work going forward between tonight and tomorrow in the afternoon. We are entering the last hours of the 55th National Conference of the African National Congress, which was a resounding success. We apologize to our delegates, guests, and members of the media for the delays that characterized the first 2 days of conference relating to registration and accreditation. An organization as big as the ANC and the ruling party should lead by example and not have issues of administrative errors like we have done. We need to correct that decisively going into the future. This was as a result of some teething problems as we transitioned to our new online membership and registration system. So far, the conference has already dealt with a number of issues, including the following: political report by Comrade President Cyril Matamela Ramaphosa, organizational report by Deputy President David Mabuza, financial report by Comrade Paul Mashatile, presentation and adoption of credentials, Integrity Commission by Comrade George Mashamba, constitutional amendments, presentation of the strategy and tactics, presentation of the ANC performance in the election, and organizational renewal. We presented here in this conference the survey we have conducted as the ANC in relation to elections. Let me also take this opportunity to confirm the national officials of the African National Congress as elected by the 55th National Conference. President Comrade Cyril Matamela Ramaphosa, Deputy President Comrade Paul Mashatile, National Chairperson Comrade Kwede Mantashe, Secretary General, Comrade Figile April Mbalula. First Deputy Secretary General, Comrade Nomvula Mkonyani. Second Deputy Secretary General, Comrade Marupeni Ramukhopa. Treasurer General, Comrade Gwen Ramukhopa. Inspired by the theme Defend and Advance, the gains of freedom, unity through renewal, we can confidently assert that the delegates of the ANC have spoken. They spoke loudly, boldly, and eloquently that the unity and renewal of our movement remains sacrosanct and must proceed irreversibly. As the newly elected leadership, we have heard them. We have already concluded our commissions in which the twin principles of contestation and cooperation were robustly exercised by our delegates with a view to reach consensus on the key tasks of the day. We are going to be working almost throughout the night to cover the lost ground in terms of getting reports from the commissions and adopting the resolutions for this national conference. The commissions will tonight start reports to plenary after the finalization of the nominations for the additional members, which exercise is being conducted as we speak. We will be adopting resolutions and voting at the same time, so as to cover for the lost time. We are now in the process of electing our additional members of the National Executive Committee. The results are expected to be presented to the closing plenary tomorrow. President Ramaphosa will deliver the closing address tomorrow, and the Secretary General will deliver the declaration of conference tomorrow. We thank the delegates of the ANC for displaying maximum unity and discipline, as well as conducting themselves in a manner that is consistent with the culture and traditions of our glorious movement. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretary General. I'm now going to open the floor for questions. So what I'll do, SG, is we'll take the round of questions. You can note them, and then you can answer. Maybe say we take the first 5 hands. Okay? You can, we take the first round this side. Okay. So just say your name and the name of your media outlet. I must say that SG, we've got quite a huge contingent of both local, regional and international media here.
Good evening, sir. Jan Newberg for Network 24. Firstly, congratulations, Mr. Mbalula, on your election. That said, one of the issues that has come up in the run-up to this conference has been the standard side rule. And I was wondering on 2 issues about that. The first was on an issue where a member of the ANC is found guilty in a court of law and that sentence is then lessened. What happens, at what point is such a person eligible to stand? And secondly, if a person is sentenced, having agreed that they were guilty, to a fine or imprisonment, and they pay that fine, does that mean the whole situation is expunged? Can the person then stand? Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Next
Paul Vecchiato from Bloomberg. Just for planning purposes, really, can you give us an idea of the timing for tomorrow? So, what time do you expect the plenary to start? Will all the NEC members on the new NEC be announced then, or will that be a separate process? Thank you.
Good evening, SG Mbalula. This is Christian from Netwerk 24. SG, so what I would like to ask is the step aside rule still going to be implemented? Because according to information we have, that people like Andile Longisa and Batabile Tlamini has now been added to the list to content positions for the NEC. And if so, is the step aside rule still in place? And then secondly, just on the report by the Integrity Commission, was it on the Pala Pala issue? And what was the, thank you.
Is it not winning?
It's who? We can take him behind you, TD, because we're just taking the whole round now.
Okay. Yeah. I'll give it to you now, Budzwai. Thank you so much. TD Madia from Eyewitness News. Congratulations, Mbax. First of all, the commissions are over. You want to understand. Are you satisfied about the quality of conversations happening? Because as an outsider, I think not enough time has been given for those commissions to deliberate over critical issues about the organization and what it also wants to do for the country. Secondly, can you just maybe in on the decision that I understand has been taken for Andile Lungisa and Batabile Dlamini to be allowed to stand for the NEC members who are about to be elected? I had a third thing I wanted to ask you, just need to remember, sorry guys. We'll come back.
Thank you. It's Govin Whittles from Newsroom Africa. Mr. Mbalula, when can the public expect report backs on the commissions, which has become part of the ANC's conferences? Is that still going to happen? Will we get a report back on the input by the Integrity Commission with the head of the Integrity Commission? We understand that the Electoral Committee took its rules to the plenary. What did the plenary decide about the Electoral Committee's rules? Were there any revisions made which would allow people to stand? And then you say that nominations are happening as we speak. Are you able to tell us if anyone has been nominated from the floor and who those people are? And was there no expectation for us to be part of that nominations process? Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Secretary General. Mzwani Limbeche here from the SAPC. I think there's a lot of renewal that we've been hearing as you embark on this conference. What is it that you, as the new leadership, are going to do differently to ensure that that renewal you're speaking about is actually effected? I mean, I think easier said than done, but I guess it's the actions on the ground, especially because you have people who have lost the conference, they may feel aggrieved, they may feel they are being excluded and something like that. So what is it that you're going to do differently? But besides that, I think the core of who you are as the ANC is to serve the people, particularly because you are the governing party. I think the fact that South Africans are complaining day in and day out about the state of the country, it has happened under the rule of the ANC. Why should South Africans trust you that you'll turn the situation around when the decay, if I may put it that way, happened under the very same ANC? Thanks.
Thank you. I'm Khawelo Magolero with UFM and Newsnote Agency. Mr. Mbalula, did you discuss load shedding? I've already heard the Secretary of Limpopo saying they are opposed to the so-called just energy transition. And if you discussed it, where are you with it? And regarding how you are running the conference, I've been to many ANC conferences. I've never seen one this secretive. I mean, almost all the sessions are closed sessions. What motivated the decision to just keep us here? I think you could have even sent us press releases. We'll get the message. I don't know. For a ruling party, perhaps South Africans would expect you to be much more transparent. Thank you.
Good day, Mr. Mbalula. It's Thando Maeko from Business Day. Now that the conference is over and elections for the leadership is concluded, do we expect the Electoral Committee to be dissolved? Not dissolved, but reconstituted. What happens to the Electoral Committee now?
SG.
It says, do we expect that now that conference is being concluded, do we expect the electoral committee to be dissolved? What happens to them now? Okay.
Good evening, SG, and of course, Bulemabe. My name is Buleli Treaty Jones, ENCA. Mr. Balula, now that you're elected as the new Secretary General of the organization, could we expect you to be resigning from the executive position of being the Minister of Transport to fully focus on the affairs of the organization as soon as next week? Thank you.
Okay, that's the last hand, last hand. Huh?
When will he resign is what sorry, thank you. That's actually what I wanted to ask. When are you resigning from your job as minister? That's all, thank you.
Last hand, we are not going to open
All
the
right.
next round.
All right, thank you very much. My name is Lukhanya Khalad from Newsroom Africa. SG, firstly, congratulations. The organizational report was presented before conference. Mentioned a few things, particularly about the decline in both the quality and in the discipline of members of the African National Congress. It also spoke about branches where there's no political education that actually takes place within the branch. There's no money to fund political education programs in the O.R. Tambo School of Leadership. I would imagine that those are issues that are going to be driven by your office right now. How are you going to deal with the issue of discipline, instilling discipline within the African National Congress, its members? How are you going to deal with the issue of political education? Because when we, as the media, were allowed into the plenary, we saw debates and discussions take place that were akin to discussions that are, you know, that don't belong in conference. So how are you going to deal with the issue of discipline as well as the quality, as well as the issue of political education over your term? Thank you, sir.
No, thanks. Those are the questions that we had. The challenge is that hands come up afterwards. We'll come to this side. Let's just take and then we'll come. So we'll do 2 rounds. This is the first round of questions. Can you help me with the mic?
Hi, Zoleka Kotashe from SABC News. In the political report presented by the President at the beginning of the conference, he also made mention of state capture and how there would be resistance, but that the party must forge ahead in effecting some change in relation to corruption within the party. We know that Nomvula Mukunyan is the first DSG. She has a number of findings made against her in the commission report, as well as the national chairperson, Gwede Mantashe. How do you plan to effect these changes if there are top people in the leadership of the party that are in the state capture report? And I know that there have been questions about the Phala Phala report. We spoke to delegates yesterday that said that there was no, the report was not discussed. Can we know the status of that, please? Thanks.
Thanks, SG. Those are the questions.
We will discuss as officials and with the President when we will resign the portfolio of transport so as to enable smooth transition, and that the work we have carried out and which we will continue to carry out through another member is not interrupted. So if it was my call alone, I will resign tonight. So we have to discuss. I might go now or after the State of the Nation, or even go on Monday. So we'll have a meeting with the President as the Chief Executive of government. What does he prefer? Of course, it doesn't mean anything because you can go now or any other time. So if President is ready to replace immediately, he will advise. So that's what will happen with regard to that particular matter. In terms of step-aside rule and eligibility to stand and so on, and the Integrity Commission on Phala Phala. The Integrity Commission did not table a report on Phala Phala. The report of the Integrity Commission is part and parcel of the organizational report that was presented by former Deputy President, Comrade Didi Mabuza. Should there be any developments in relation to that, we will communicate accordingly. At the present moment, there has not been anything for this conference about Phala Phala. The commissions will, step aside the rule. The commissions are going to report, and you will get the feedback in terms of step aside. But you will know from the policy conference, it was resolved that step aside rule stands, and it must be applied consistently in the organization. It must be strengthened. That's what the policy conference resolved. As to whether or not this conference has decided on that or otherwise, the resolutions that will be taken and adopted this evening to tomorrow will tell as to what is the final resolution. So there will be briefing sessions throughout, as and when we resolve on issues, and I think Comrade Pule and his team will do that. And it answers the question about the media presence here. We appreciate your presence here. What is important for us is to inform South Africans about the decisions we take. We have given you an overall briefing about where we are. As and when the commission's report tonight, we will be reporting. But I'm not sure you will still be there by 12 o'clock. But the media team will guide. As and when report on all issues, finish reporting, the rapporteurs and the chairpersons of those commissions will come and give you the report on our resolutions. That will happen throughout the day tomorrow as well. So the media will be fully briefed. We are not having a closed conference. We gave you the opening session and the nominations. Pule will decide on the nominations now as to what will happen in relation to that. And I think the Electoral Commission can come and brief you and give you a list of people who have been nominated. You will actually have that. The nomination are continuing as we speak. On the question of commissions, is there enough time? The commissions did not start here. We started at the policy conference. So what conference is doing is to adopt the resolutions, proposed resolutions or recommendations from policy conference. So we've been debating these issues from the policy conference on a number of issues that we have been debating. We will now come and tell you what have we resolved. Is there enough time? There is enough time. That's why we create space for a policy conference to enable us to exhaust debates on policy matters in the organization. Nominations have been taken. The National Executive Committee dealt with the issue of Bathabile Dlamini, Comrade Bata, in relation to the ANC constitution. And a decision was taken by the National Executive Committee that she will be allowed to stand as a member of the National Executive Committee, of which that matter have been laid to rest and clarified with plenary. So that's what has actually happened. Why should South Africans trust us? We can't answer that question by yes or no. South Africans will trust the African National Congress out of its own program, and whether or not, in terms of that program, the ANC is able to implement that program, and we will be held accountable from what we would have said. At the present moment, the ANC response to South Africans will be guided by how far we have gone to implement our manifesto in terms of the last election. And to simply say everything is decaying, I think it's an over-exaggerated statement. Not that there are not weaknesses in governance. There are weaknesses, there are challenges, but there are equally strides that have been made in terms of our election manifesto. So, which parameter we are using to come to a blanket statement like decay? We have been affected by objective and subjective factors in terms of our performance. Overarching in terms of the objective factors, in terms of the performance of the economy, is that the sixth administration inherited an economy that was battered and suffered from recession. Whilst we're still addressing that, we had to deal with the question of COVID-19, which was the biggest setback, not only for us, but the world globally. And we're on the recovery. And in terms of that recovery, we're beginning to see signs. We're beginning to see positive signs in terms of the economic recovery. 1.6 GDP growth in the last 2 weeks announced. The labor survey also giving good results in terms of the performance of our economy. So good days are ahead of us, and we need to tighten our grip and be decisive on what needs to be done in different areas. Load shedding, is it been discussed, what's happening and all of that? The resolutions will tell what we're saying about that. There is a major restructuring that government must undertake in terms of ESCOM. And a major intervention we've got to make in terms of the management at ESCOM, because we've got to kill load shedding. It can't be business as usual. And government will have to give the ANC a report back on the mandate of how to go about in addressing the challenges we are facing at ESCOM. Why sessions are closed? There's only one session that is closed. Not all sessions have been closed. We were in commissions up until we were voting last night, and we were in commissions. The last finished at 1 a.m. So it's not closed. We announced the top 7. Not closed. The commissions is a closed session. So there is nothing that we're doing in the dark except debating issues. That you will be informed of later on today. First report here, reporting and the resolutions, Pule will come to you, and he will give you the schedule about the report back we want to give to the nation about the work we've actually covered. So we've not been sleeping. The voting finished around 10 o'clock last night, and the were continuing. So that is what we can report, and we are really sorry if there is an impression that we're closing you out. We want to inform the nation, and we do appreciate the fact that the media is with us and is robust in its engagement with us. So there is no dictatorship of the proletariat here. So we want to engage with you. We want your questions to be answered on a whole range of issues. That's why I've explained to you that after the address of the president, we'll have the top 5, top 7 appearance and engagement with you, probably on the address. But I know you will only ask one thing, pala pala. So, but just be ready to engage with us on a whole range of issues, and then get to engage with our officials, led by the president. That will happen tomorrow in the afternoon, and Comrade Pule will coordinate that. So, all in all, we do appreciate the media, because the media is a platform through which we inform broader society about what we are doing here. The Electoral Commission future, the Electoral Commission was the first time it was established now. We will do an evaluation about the work that they've done and how to strengthen the Electoral Commission. It was for the first time in the ANC that we have an Electoral Commission. Other political parties have got electoral colleges and all of that. So ours is an Electoral Commission, which is chaired by Comrade Kgalema Motlanthe. So we'll look at work and make a determination about what we need to do going forward, strengthen and address some of the challenges that the Electoral Commission was facing. Lack of money, of course, we need to grapple with this task. My interest is to deal with Luthuli House in terms of the center and strengthen Luthuli House. And also, we don't have challenges of people not paid. And we deal with those, and we'll deal with that with the Treasurer General, myself, at Luthuli House. We run a smaller machine but effective, and building a whole lot of capacity there. So that is what we're going to do so that we're able to execute our tasks. The financing and the ANC is the support for democracy, and it's the support for the ideal. And those who've got big pockets in that endeavor, as happens with, we accept donations without any strings attached. So, more money on the agenda. About the membership. What to do? Of course, uncouth, disrespectful, and to revolutionary. We are not going conference. The ANC like a party.